That's the CBC's Susan Ormiston talking about the humanitarian crisis. But now we want to dig into the country and to Kyiv itself. Joining me now to discuss how the LGBTQ+ community is responding to the Russian invasion is Edward Reese. He is the project assistant for Kyiv Pride and joins us now from Kyiv. Edward, take us through what you are seeing and hearing around you today.
Well, today we have seen the Russian missile bombing in the city, and we have seen the crash of living quarter of the house. So we see that it's like definitely not a peaceful war or peaceful operation like they said. We see that Russia is targeting civilian people in Kyiv, in the capital of Ukraine, and in other cities as well. So I personally live in more peaceful region of the city. It's like outskirts. We don't have anything important here. But yesterday we heard sirens several times. We had to go into the shelter under our house. So right now we are waiting, and I know that by this moment Kyiv is under control of the Ukrainian army, and we are all eager to fight. We are joining the volunteer forces, people are joining the territorial defense, and in each city of Ukraine we are one big army which wants to get out the invaders of our country.
You yourself are ready to take up arms and defend your city and your country?
Yes, sure, if it will be needed. And we LGBTQ people in Ukraine are very patriotic, and we want to defend the country. We want to defend the human rights in our country, because we all know that Russia is against any human rights, and we don't want this in Ukraine.
I want to dig into what it's like for LGBTQ people living in Kyiv prior to the invasion. Can you just paint us a bit of a picture of what is the state of LGBTQ rights and acceptance in Ukraine?
Kyiv is a very European city, and Ukraine is a European country. So we have a 10-year history of Pride movement in Kyiv. And also, it's a 10-year history of Pride marches. And the history of Pride movement is even longer. In other cities of Ukraine, we also have Pride marches in Kherson, in Odessa, in Kharkiv, and we were planning this year to open new cities for Pride movement, for Pride marches. And we are still planning it, because the war will end. We believe and we hope for this. So last year, in 2021, even despite the coronavirus and some things with the pandemic, we had around 7,000 people in Kyiv on the Equality March, which Kyiv Pride organizes. It was in September, and we also had big marches in other cities. So our organization is working with LGBTQ people all over Ukraine. We have businesses supporting us. We have international businesses as well, like Blush, NYX Cosmetics, and others supporting us here. We have different events for the community all over the year. And for example, today we had to have an event made by our local business, a flower shop, for the LGBTQ community to learn how to make flower bouquets.
Edward, when you look, I mean, I'm hearing all of the work that you and your community are doing, but when you see that Russia is invading your country, and of course LGBTQ+ people continue to be actively persecuted in Russia, how concerned are you for your community right now?
There are many people who are concerned, and there are many people who want to flee the country, and I understand them for sure. But there are also a big amount of Ukrainians, of queer Ukrainians, who are ready to fight. and who have already enlisted in the army or in the territorial defense. We have an organization here in Kyiv, which is called LGBTQ Soldiers and Veterans Organization. So we know that they are fighting too right now. They are back in the army or newly enlisted or something like this. So we are ready to defend Ukraine because it's our home for sure, and it's our right to save the country and queer people together with all the Ukrainian nation. We are like one big army, one big nation right now.
If Russia were to take control of Ukraine, what do you think that would look like for the queer community?
If Russia were to take control of Ukraine, for sure, Ukraine will become something like Russia, because Russia doesn't have any human rights right now, as I said. And when we faced the start of this war in 2014, we had many queer refugees from Donetsk and Luhansk region, in Kyiv, in Odessa, in other cities, because they understood that if they stay in the occupied territories in Crimea and Donetsk and Luhansk, they will have many problems and they may be killed and so on. So that's why actually we are so active in fighting right now. That's why we are so active in communicating with the West, with Western media. That's why we are asking for help from any Western organizations, from governments, from people who can donate for Ukrainian LGBTQ people, and who can go to the officials, to the governments, and ask them as many times as it's possible to stop Vladimir Putin, to stop Russia, to give sanctions, to give us military support, and so on. So I'm asking this now from any people who are listening and seeing me. You need to help Ukraine survive. You need to help Ukrainian queer people survive here.
Edward, thank you so much. It is heartbreaking to hear the words that you're saying and the calls that you're making, but very important to get these messages out. We appreciate you speaking to us today. Thank you, Edward.
Thanks a lot.
Edward Reese is the project assistant for Kyiv Pride. We have much more ahead right here on CBC News Network. Stay with us.